Sunday NFL main slate is less than 1 week away. In this video, we're going to be breaking it down. 13 games total. Welcome, guys. My name is DK. Again, in this video, we're going to be talking about the week 1 main slates. I also cover content for NBA, niche sports like preseason, Summer League, FIBA World Cup, and player prop sites like Prize Picks, Underdog, and Parlay Play. Parlay Play, they're the sponsor of the video. I'll have a link down below, but you can use the code DKDFS for a $100 deposit match. And they currently are running a promo here. Patrick Mahomes, over 0.5 passing yards. Go ahead and take that free square. They have a ton of props up already for the Thursday night game. Again, I'll be tweeting out some plays. I'll be posting some plays over on Patreon as well. So excited to be working with Parlay Play. Again, guys, my advice to you is get on as many of these DFS/sportsbooks as possible. Take advantage of these deposit match bonuses. Link down below. And if you guys are looking for premium content, you can check out my Patreon link down below. I cover content for DFS, so I'll be covering the showdown slate, the main slate, and for player prop sites as well. Here's how I did in the NFL preseason on Underdog. 125% ROI, up 110 units. Again, if you're tailing $100 a unit, you'd be up $11,000 just in the month of August. So if you guys are interested in signing up, link down below. We'll be posting a ton of player props for week 1 and for Thursday as well. And before we get the play-by-play breakdown, let me bring up the OddsJam Sportsbook screen. So right now what it has is all the week 1 games. And basically the screen is, if you wanted to bet on the games, it would show you which book offers you the best odds. So if this is something you guys are interested in, you can check out link in the description below. DKDFS for 25% off your first month. Ton of different tools here. Again, I made a video talking about the Fantasy Optimizer, but if you guys are looking for some help with player prop sites, you can check out their Fantasy Optimizer as well. And they have stuff for Prize Picks, Underdog, Parlay Play, everything up here. So and if you guys are interested, DKDFS, 25% off your first month. All right, with that out of the way, let's get into the video. So here's how we're going to do it. Let's go. We're going to go position by position for quarterback and running back. And then I'll quickly go through the teams for the wide receivers just so I don't miss anyone. But we'll start off with the quarterback position. At the top, you got Lamar Jackson at 8K. I think probably my favorite spend quarterback on the slate. This Ravens offense is going to be run a bit different. You know, the previous years, they're a bit more of a run-first team, slow offense. This year, they're going to spread it out. They're going to play a lot more 3 wide receiver sets. And I think it's going to, really boost the floor plus ceiling, in my opinion, for Lamar Jackson. So I really like him here against Houston. Not scared of them defensively. Obviously, Lamar is still a guy that can provide some rushing upside as well. He's had multiple games. Last year went for over 100 yards rushing. So, yeah, if I'm spending it for anyone at quarterback at the very top, I think it's Lamar Jackson. Now, Hurts and Fields are right there. Obviously, both have rushing upside as well. I prefer Lamar. Fields a little bit more reliant on his legs, too. Joe Burrow, this is pretty important. It kind of seems like 50-50 if he's going to play. If he doesn't play, obviously, it's going to be a pretty big downgrade to the Bengals passing attack. So we'll monitor that situation. In the mid-range for quarterbacks, you got Herbert, Tua, Lawrence, Cousins, Geno, Watson, Russell Wilson. I think kind of in this range from going to anyone, it's probably, the guys in this Miami and Los Angeles game, Los Angeles Chargers. That's the highest total of the week. So I like the ceiling on Herbert and Tua in a game that should be a shootout. And then if you want kind of a sneakier quarterback play, I don't hate Deshaun Watson. I know, reports been a little bit up and down on him, but I'm still a guy that can provide the rushing upside. We didn't see it a ton last year, but I do think, I think if Joe Burrow plays, it actually would help Deshaun Watson, just because I think this game would be played at a bit of a faster pace. So I honestly think if Burrow doesn't play, maybe I won't look to Watson, but I think he's kind of a sneaky option there in the mid-range. Value quarterbacks, I think the chalk in cash games should be Anthony Richardson at 5'6", because of his rushing upside, right? In a game playing at home. Passing ability is still a little bit yet to be seen, but still a guy that can provide that floor with his, again, rushing ability. So I think Richardson's your pretty clear cash game play right now. Spend down quarterback, and again, that rushing upside he provides. If you want some other quarterbacks, the other rookie quarterbacks, Young and CJ Stroud, I think are viable tournament options, both relatively cheap. And then my favorite, really cheap quarterback play is going to be Sam Howell in Washington. Washington's offense, I'm pretty high on. I know this game totals is pretty disgusting. I think it's 38, but Howell's another guy that can provide that rushing floor. We kind of saw it in the preseason, and I think this Washington team's going to be sneaky good. So If you want that off the board quarterback play in tournaments, I think Sam Howell's the guy for me at the very bottom of the position. Let's talk some running backs. So top end guys, you got McCaffrey, you got Eckler, Chubb, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry. Let's talk about those five. So I think my favorite of the group probably would be Austin Eckler. Now, still not a guy that's going to be a true bell cow back, but again, highest total game of the week, very involved in the passing game, and still probably going to get, I don't know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 to 15 carries, plus just the floor of his, target share. So I think Eckler is probably my favorite overall spend-up running back. I do like McCaffrey. Obviously he's going to be super productive when he's out there. I do think it'll be interesting to see what his workload is. I think Elijah Mitchell will still mix in, but McCaffrey's still very involved in the passing game as well. Good spend-up. Nick Chubb, 8.2K, no longer have Kareem Hunt there. I think he could be, they could lean on him a little bit more. So still a guy you can get to. Bijan Robinson, a little bit unsure of what his workload's going to be. So I think right now more of just a tournament play for me. And then Derrick Henry, I mean, you can always get to him, right? He's still is a guy that has that pretty high ceiling, still a guy that can always break that 100-yard bonus. It's going down a little bit more in the mid-range here for running backs. I think Jacobs is fine. I'm probably going to stay away from Ramondre Stevenson week 1. I want to see what that workload is. I'm not convinced on ETN. I think taking Bigsby's going to work in. Mixon's kind of just fine. I do like Alexander Mattison in the mid-range. There's not a lot of competition behind him. And he is a decent pass catcher as well. I mean, we saw when Dalvin Cook missed games previous years, like Mattison had some big games. And not super scared about this Tampa Bay defense either. So I do like Alexander Mattison in the mid-range. I think he's going to be leaned on pretty heavily. I think he's going to play a majority of the snaps there, running back position for Minnesota. Let's see. What else is in this range? Again, probably going to stay away from like Najee Harris. I think Jalen Warren's going to mix in there. Damian Pierce at 5.8K has looked very explosive in the few preseason touches that he has gotten. I think this game could be a sneaky shootout as well. So Damian Pierce, I think, is a good tournament play there, 5.8. Rachaad White's a guy I'm pretty high on. I think will be a relatively popular play, but they're RB1. Tampa Bay probably going to be playing from behind a lot. He's a really good pass catcher. So I do like Rachaad White a lot here at this price point. Again, I think it'll be a pretty popular play. I'm probably going to stay away from the Philadelphia backs, but if I was going to go to one, I think it would be Kenny Gainwell. It's going down a little bit more. So let's go over to Miami. Raheem Mostert. So they're pretty banged up at the running back position. And where's Miami? So Wilson's on the IR. Devin Chain's banged up. Some of them, they're just really, really hurt the running back position. So Raheem Mostert, I think, could be leaned on a lot week 1. 5.4K. He's right there, in my opinion, one of the better cheap running back plays on this slate. So I do like him quite a bit. Again, we'll keep an eye on some of those injuries, but I think he's in for a pretty big workload in a game that should be played at a very high, fast pace. I do kind of like both Washington backs too. Again, I talked about how I'm pretty high on this Washington offense. Bijan and Antonio Gibson should be a relatively even split. Both involved in the pass game. I think Robinson will be more the early down back, Gibson more the pass catcher. So I do kind of like Antonio Gibson there at 5.2. For the Saints, Jamal Williams, again, you have no Kamara. So they are also relatively thin in the backfield. Let's go to New Orleans. Let's kind of talk this through, right? No Kamara. Miller's banged up. They cut a few guys. So, we'll see. We'll keep an eye on the news here for Miller. But it could be you could have a pretty big workload here for Jamal Williams in week 1, who had a pretty solid year last year for the Lions. Not super involved in the passing game, but again, the Saints are relatively thin at the running back position. So another, I think, pretty solid value there. Now we're kind of in the tournament dart throw range, right? I mentioned Bigsby. He looked really good in the preseason. I think he's a little bit interesting in a large field tournament. What else? Charbonnet, again, I think you can mix in behind Ken Walker. He's cheap. Oh, we got to talk about the Colts back. So they said they're going to use kind of a committee week 1. No Taylor. Moss is still hurt. You got Deion Jackson, Evan Hall. I think both are fine dart throws. Jackson is online to start, but again, I don't know what exactly the workload is going to be. But you don't need a ton from him, right? When he's 4.1K, you don't need a ton from him to pay off his salary. I think Hall's more of your tournament pivot. I think a good chunk of the field, if they're going to use one of these Colts backs, are going to go to Deion Jackson. But I do think Evan Hall is a good pass catcher, is in play as well. And we'll monitor the Zach Moss status, but if he's out, Jackson Hall should handle a lot of the running back duties here. I think both will be firmly in play. I think that was it, too. Is there anything else I wanted to mention here? Running back. No, I think Ford's going to mix in behind Nick Chubb. I think he'll kind of play the Kareem Hunt role. Again, in a large field tournament, I think he's viable. He was a little bit banged up in the preseason, but should be good to go. All right, let's talk about wide receivers. I think it's a little bit easier to go team by team for wide receivers. So talk about Cincinnati. Joe Burrow news is everything for me. If Joe Burrow's out, I'm probably going to be avoiding these wide receivers. If Joe Burrow's in, then obviously Chase has a massive ceiling. Higgins in the mid-range, I think is a pretty safe play. And Tyler Boyd's always kind of just there, working in the slot. Not a guy with a huge ceiling, but a guy that can go get you, 4, 5, 6 catches. So the Cincinnati receivers kind of depends on the status of Joe Burrow for me. For Cleveland, outside of Amari Cooper, I don't know if I'm going to take shots on some of these cheaper guys. I think Cooper's still a fine play. Again, he's getting a little bit up there in age, but still is their clear wide receiver 1. If you are playing Deshaun Watson, I think Cooper is probably the guy I'm stacking him with. Arizona, so this offense is projected to be really, really bad. We don't really know who exactly the starter is going to be. It's a competition right now with Dobbs and Tune. If I had to guess, I would say it's Tune, but we'll see. For the wide receivers, again, it's pretty gross. I'll most likely be staying away, but if you wanted to take some shots like a cheap Rondell Moore or Dortch, I guess it's okay. Washington, we got to monitor the status of Terry McLaurin. There's a lot of guys that are banged up, injured going into week 1, and McLaurin's a pretty big one. So if he's in, I actually do like him a good amount here at that price point. If he's out, I think you can feel a lot better about Dotson and Samuel. And then my guess is De'Ami Brown will probably mix in as the wide receiver 3 if there's no McLaurin. We saw, last year, Washington did like just playing their main 3 wide receivers a majority of the game. So if there's no McLaurin, I think we can get some value here for Washington. For Tennessee, I'm probably going to stay away. I don't love the price point there for Hopkins. Again, he's getting up there in age. Burks, Westbrook, I'm probably going to pass on at their respective price points. For the Saints, Olave and Michael Thomas are fair price points. Michael Thomas, it's relatively cheap. Said he's looking like his old self. I don't hate taking a shot on him. Obviously, he's been out for a long time, but it's a 5.1K price point for him, so we'll see. Shaheed's a little bit banged up. I think he'll be available, though, for this week. Should be operating as a wide receiver 3. Looking at Houston, so one guy that I do like for season long, I don't know if he's going to crack, or play a lot of snaps week 1, but that's going to be Tank Dell. I don't think I'm going to play him week 1, but I think this is a guy that could work in eventually a bit down the line. And I think he could end up being their top wide receiver this year. So I don't know if I'm going to play him week 1, but definitely someone I like for season long. Week 1, I think my favorite receiver here would be Nico Collins. He's listed as the wide receiver 1. Houston most likely to be playing from behind in a game like this. And again, Baltimore is going to be playing a lot faster, more up-tempo, which I think helps the Houston side. So Nico Collins, again, 9, 10 targets. Like, he should get targeted a fair amount. 4.7K is a cheap price point. I like him a good amount. For Baltimore, it's a little bit unclear of how this wide receiver, core is going to work with Bateman, with Odell, with Zay Flowers. But I think all 3 are pretty good tournament plays. Your safest bet, assuming he plays, is going to be Mark Andrews at the tight end position. But I like this Ravens offense a lot going into this year, especially just the way that they're gonna play much faster, spread it out a bit more. So if you're playing Lamar Jackson, I think sprinkling in some Bateman, Odell, and Zay Flowers makes sense. I would guess that Flowers might get the most ownership of the wide receiver group, but I still like Bateman. I still like Odell. San Francisco, kind of just fine with Debo and Ayuk. Probably not getting to Juwan Jennings there for cheap. On the Pittsburgh side, one guy I'm pretty high on this year is going to be George Pickens at 5K. I think he could have a huge year this year. Kenny Pickett, I don't mind him as well, but George Pickens he's had some really nice catches. I think a guy, it's a tough matchup here. He'll probably be low owned, but I don't hate him going in large field tournaments. Jacksonville, so you got the top 3 receivers in Ridley, Kirk, and Zay Jones. I think my favorite player, even though he is the most expensive, is going to be Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to establish himself as the clear wide receiver 1. And Jacksonville's a team that I like this year as well. So Calvin Ridley, I like a good amount. Kirk, not as high on. And then Zay Jones, I think, is a fair spend on wide receiver. Again, those should be the 3 wide receivers starting. I expect in 2 wide receiver sets, it'll be Ridley and Zay Jones. And Kirk comes in, plays in the slot. For the Colts, I know Anthony Richardson's going to be a pretty popular play in cash games especially. Don't really know if I would pair him up with any receivers. I think if I'm playing Richardson, I would just play him naked. But you got Pittman and Pierce, McKenzie and Downs kind of mixing in as wide receiver 3. Just tournament plays, really. Talking about Tampa Bay. So, you got Mike Evans and Godwin. Assuming both play, I give the edge to Godwin over Mike Evans. Right now, they have Trey Palmer listed as the wide receiver 3. At the flat min price, I think he is interesting. I just don't know exactly what his workload is going to be for week 1. For Minnesota, obviously, Justin Jefferson's a great play if you can afford him. Massive floor plus ceiling. So, he looks great. The other receivers should be Addison and KJ Osborne. I think both fine options. They don't love the price point on either, though. Carolina, so you got some injuries to monitor here with Chark and with Terrence Marshall. Thielen probably going to be operating as a wide receiver 1. If both Chark and Marshall miss, I think an interesting value play could be the rookie Jonathan Mingo at 3.2K. So, yeah, Carolina, I think we could get some value here. For Atlanta, I don't mind Drake London at 5.4. He should be operating as the clear wide receiver 1. I think if I'm going to play a receiver for the Falcons, it would be him. Matt Collins, Scott Miller projected to be the other starters, but I would just rather spend up for London. For Philadelphia, you got Brown and you got Devontae Smith. Both have a massive ceiling, no issue. I'm not going to go to Quez Watkins, though. For the Patriots, I don't love the wide receivers here. Juju's at a fair price point. Parker, Bourne, I'm not very high in this New England offense. For the Raiders, Devontae Adams, still a guy with a pretty high ceiling. Obviously, he's priced up there, but still like spending up for him if you can go there. And the wide receiver 2 and 3 should be Myers and Renfro, 4.8 and 4.6 here respectively. I don't think either are going to be super popular, but still think they're fair salary relief plays. Now for Denver, we can get some value here for sure. Judy, I don't expect him to be available for week 1. I really like Courtland Sutton. With Judy not expected to play, Sutton should be the clear go-to guy. I think Denver's offense might bounce back a little bit. I don't think they're going to be as bad as they were last year, but yeah, a really nice price point here for Sutton. And then I think assuming Judy doesn't play, you're going to get Marvin Mims operating as wide receiver 2. Flat min price, I think he's going to be a very popular spend down wide receiver play, but hard not to like him, especially if he's going to be out there a ton with Judy out, which again, I don't expect Judy to play. Now Miami, you got the clear top wide receivers here with Hill and with Waddle. Like the ceiling quite a bit in both. I would give the edge to Hill over Waddle. For the Chargers, you got Allen, you got Mike Williams. Palmer expected to be the wide receiver 3. Johnson should be mixing in as wide receiver 4. I don't hate Palmer as a spend down wide receiver 3. Mike Williams, more that boomer bust guy, but he's relatively cheap. And Keenan Allen, even though he's getting up there in age, I still think he provides that high floor working out of the slot as well. Moving on to Green Bay. So top receivers here for Green Bay should be Watson, Dobbs, and Reed. Watson probably got the highest ceiling. But I do have some interest in Jaden Reed at the flat min price. I think it'd be relatively sneaky there. For the Bears, I don't love the wide receivers just because I think there'd be, again, more of a run-first team. But, if I was to stack anyone with Fields, I think it would be DJ Moore. Let's talk about the Rams. Cooper Kupp, I don't expect him to play week 1. He's dealing with that nagging hamstring injury. Hamstrings always scare me a bit. So this wide receiver core is going to be pretty thin. I think your starting receivers will be Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, and I think the rookie Puka Nacua is going to mix in as well. So I actually like these receivers a good amount. I think Tutu Atwell is one of my favorite spend-on wide receivers. I like him a good amount. I like Puka Nacua a good amount too, especially if there's no Cooper Kupp. I expect those two to start outside with Van Jefferson. So, and we kind of saw in the preseason, Skoranek did play a bit in this preseason while Tutu did not. So I think Tutu's pretty clearly ahead of Skoranek. And then Nacua only played one preseason game and they sat him out. So Jefferson I think is fine, but if there's no Cooper Kupp, I'm definitely intrigued by a min price Tutu Atwell and a min price Puka Nacua. Seattle, so we'll keep an eye on the status of JSN, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. He did take a part in practice, so we'll see if he's going to be available. But those should be the top 3 receivers if he is in Metcalf, Lockett, and JSN. Honestly, I think if I'm going to play a Seattle receiver, it would be JSN, assuming no limitations. And I think if he's going to be available, I don't think he'll be limited. All right, so that's the quick rundown of the wide receivers. We can briefly do the same here for tight ends. Let's quickly go team by team, and then we'll wrap it up there. So for Cincinnati, I don't love Irv Smith, but he's relatively cheap. For Cleveland, we know they do like going to their tight ends. Njoku is 4-2. You got Akins, you got Bryant. I think Njoku is probably their next favorite target here for Cleveland outside of Amari Cooper. So again, Cleveland they do like going to their tight ends. Njoku 4-2, I think, is a fair price point. But Arizona, we'll keep an eye on the status of Zach Ertz. If Zach Ertz does not play, then we can get to a really cheap Trey McBride in a game that they should be playing from behind. He didn't have the best rookie year, but 3.1K, I wouldn't hate taking a shot on him. For Washington, Logan Thomas is 3.2K. I think he'll be good to go, but we'll monitor the status on him. If not, you could have the rookie Cole Turner at 2.5K be a viable value. For Tennessee, I think Chico Kongwu is a solid spend down tight end, and I don't feel very comfortable with a lot of the receivers here for Tennessee. Just looking at the price points, but a sub 4K Chig I think is viable. Juwan Johnson also I think is be pretty involved in the Saints offense. His snaps weren't amazing last year. I could see them ticking up. The only issue is they have a lot of other tight ends. You got Taysom Hill, who we know will probably vulture some touchdowns. Jimmy Graham, like they just have a lot of guys here. Houston, Dalton Schultz is 4.6K. I don't love the price point in him. I'll probably pass. For Baltimore, Mark Andrews, this is big news. Sounds like he'll be available, but not 100%. So if Mark Andrews cannot play, I think Isaiah Likely is an absolute smash play here. Would be the clear tight end 1 there and a good pass catcher. And he's still played a lot alongside Mark Andrews. So if there's no Mark Andrews, I think Likely is one of the best value plays in the slate. If Mark Andrews is in, I think you can still sprinkle in a little bit Isaiah Likely, who I think will be involved as well. San Francisco, George Kittle at 5.7K. I think he'll be available for this week. We'll monitor the status here. If he is, he's fine. I think I would just rather spend up, though, for Andrews or Kelsey. If not, we can maybe look to some value there. For Pittsburgh, I'm probably going to stay away from Freiermuth at that price point. I think Washington will mix in behind him. For Jacksonville, Ingram 4.7 is kind of just fine. I don't really have a super strong take there. For the Colts, you do have some cheap tight ends. You can maybe take some shots on Granson, Moelle, Cox. Okay, but again, I'm just not super confident in the Colts passing attack. For Tampa Bay, K. Dotton, again, just kind of indifferent on him at the price point. There's a lot of viable cheap tight ends. For Minnesota, Hawkinson's 5.9. I think he'll be good to go. I think he's, a little bit of a tier behind Kelsey and Andrews, but still a guy that does have a similar ceiling. So yeah, I mean, you saw multiple games, look at 3 of the last 4 games, 16, 12, 11 targets. So they do clearly like going to Hawkinson. They just signed him to a contract as well. Again, I think I would rather, I guess Kelsey's not in this slate. He's on the show on slate, but I think if I'm spending up for tight end, I think Andrews would be my favorite, but I think Hawkinson's right there. Carolina, Hayden Hurst, fine. Atlanta, Kyle Pitts, 4.5. And kind of just indifferent on him as well. And I don't have a super strong take. Philadelphia, Goddard's 5K. I think it'll be a little bit sneaky. I think, again, if people are spending up at tight end, they're going to look to Andrews. They're going to look to Hawkinson. Goddard, I think, is an ownership play at 5K. Still a guy that does provide a ceiling. For New England, Hunter Henry's 3.5K. It's okay. But we know they like running 2 tight ends a lot. Hooper at 3K, not a big strong take there. I don't love the price point of Dulcich either. For Miami, not a lot I'm in love with either. I think they'll utilize a lot of tight ends. For the Chargers, you got Everett, you got Parm. Green Bay, Musgrave is 2.9K. Rookie tight end. Yeah, I don't hate it. I really don't hate it. For Chicago, Cole Kmet's a little pricey for me. Again, I'm not super confident in the Chicago passing attack either. For the Rams, I think Higbee's a little bit interesting, especially if there's no Cooper Kupp. We mentioned a couple cheap wide receivers, but here's the thing with the Rams, right? They basically play their main guys the entire game. So Higbee probably plays close to the entire game. There's no Cooper Kupp. We saw some decent games from Higbee. He does provide a floor, and he's going to be out there a lot. So I think he's kind of a sneaky tight end play. And then for Seattle, Font, Disley, Parkinson, again, they kind of utilize a lot of tight ends too, so I don't love that. But yeah, guys, I think that's kind of it for the week 1 breakdown. I'm going to have a lot of content up. I already have a video breaking down the Thursday Night Football Showdown slate. I'm going to have a lot of videos up talking about some player props. I'll try to do some streams on YouTube as well. So I am super excited for NFL regular season to be here, guys. If you guys are, let me know in the comments section down below. And if you do enjoy, just make sure to like. Let's try to aim for 100 likes on this video. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Like I said, a lot. You're going to see my face a lot here for the NFL season. And excited. So good luck on week 1, guys. And we'll see you all in the next video.